Beautiful so far. So the next thing we're going to look at is the jobs migration, and the job needs a job creator. So who created the migration? Who created the job post? All right. So this is like for job postings. We're going to do integer just so that we can know the person that created it. So, and the other thing we need to know is which organization, okay, does this job posting belong to? Organization. So if we know the organization, now we can automatically fill some fields. All right. So but it has to be nullable just in case the job is not under any organization. So we have organization nullable. All right, let's say if it's a freelance program, somebody just wants somebody to build an app for them, they don't need to have an organization. All right, so Control C. The next thing we need to look at is what else? So we can now start looking at things like job title. Basically, something like looking for a Laravel developer is not nullable. You must put a job title. You can be having a job without a job title. And then list of skills, comma separated list of skills. Okay, comma skills. Okay, you have to give us the comma separated list of skills and a required skills required. Okay, and then finally you have to give us a description. All right, maybe we can make this a singular skill required. That's assuming that each job must have only one skill. Otherwise, I think we're good. Okay, so there are better ways we can handle this design. For instance, we can take out skills required to a different table. But for now, just for the sake of simplicity, we can have it here. Sometime in the future, if you want, you can redesign yours. So now we have skill required description. We want to know whether this job is still open, so we can have status, that is string, job status it's nullable, but at the same time it's gonna be nullable. Okay, I'm thinking if it's nullable, you can put anything inside nullable. It's gonna be default here. Default is gonna be that it is open. The job position is still open and closed. Okay, so we want to know job type, whether is it remote, is it on site, and so on. So we're gonna say job type, integer string job type. So job type we can have remote, on site, or whatever. So job type, instead of job type, well, let's say type. Okay, the type can be default. The default can be remote. Work type, I think it's gonna be work type because we can still have job type. Work type, where we have on site. On site, you will also have remote, hybrid, both on site and remote. Okay, so job type here is full-time, part-time, full-time. So there's part-time, there's contract. We're gonna call it job type. Alright, good. These things we just manually hard code them and make them just drop downs. Remember that in a professional environment you don't hard code things like this. I'm just doing this for the purpose of brevity. Alright, so if you're building for a professional company like a bank, you don't hard code things. You have to create separate tables for this. so that you can automatically generate a list of that. Okay, but for me, for just the purpose of brevity, I will just do this here. You have remote, you have part-time, and full-time. You have on-site, you have okay. All right, so that's what we have. Finally, we're going to create accounts. I think we've exhausted this field. We're going to create accounts. Maybe we need something like interview instructions. I think everything will be in description. Now we can have table and call it account. We need to know who owns this account. So integer user ID. Who owns this account? So once we create a user user record, we create an account for this user. So we need to know your account balance. So we say balance. The balance is going to be double that will have 10 and 2 numbers after the decimal place and 10 possible numbers before the decimal place, and the default will be 0.0. What I can't remember is whether it's going to be inside the something like this. Okay, good. Now what else do we need to know? Balance. Usually there's supposed to be another table to keep transaction records, okay, transaction history, but for the purpose of brevity, we're just going to leave this here like this. There should be another table that handles payments, so we can track which payment was made by who, but for now, purpose of brevity, we're going to leave this here. Now what we're going to do is to make sure that soft delete is added in all the tables. So I'll go to a table that has soft deletes and start adding them under rows. There is need for soft deletes, so I'll just copy soft deletes again, save. It's already here, needs to be here. Jobs needs to be here, accounts needs to be here. Okay, so what other thing do we need? In users table, we need to know if this person is actively seeking for employment. All right, actively seeking for employment and actively seeking for what else? So let's say this user, we need to have a field that tells us to pull up this user if they are actively seeking for employment. So we can do table. I don't know what to call this, but I'm gonna call it tiny int. So it's gonna be is actively seeking employment. So employ is actively seeking employment. It's like a question is gonna be 1 and a 0. So default should be 0. Default should be 1 to show that you are actively seeking. Now I want to confirm this tiny int, whether it is tiny integer or tiny int. So if you come to Laravel documentation, so we can see under T, look at IJKLMNOPQRST. So we can see tiny increments, tiny integer. See, that's what it is. Tiny integer. Okay, so I think so far we've done the main things we need to do to go ahead